think it's good for Washington. I think it's also good for the NFL.
Absolutely, it really, really
Mhm.
is. And I, hey, this is a special, special moment when you have rookie quarterbacks. And go ahead and put it out there, right, with the evolution of the Black Quarterback Series coming out over a month
Mhm.
ago, and you have these two rookie quarterbacks. This is an important moment in history, whether or not people want to acknowledge it or not. It absolutely is. And then to see this game get flexed, and to see that just the attention that they're getting at just being gifted at what they do is pretty awesome.
Definitely awesome. Definitely awesome with Commanders fans too, flexing the game. Washington has flexed, being in prime time again for Jaden Daniels, right? Prime time for
Yeah.
this Washington Commanders team. This Washington Commanders team, we didn't win in prime time just a year ago. Now
Hmm.
everybody wants the Commanders team, and it's moving in the right direction. Go ahead, George.
Yeah, Candy. This game feels like to me. It feels like it's going to be a shootout, and I was saying that even when Mariota was going to be the starter because I really felt that this Washington offense could move the ball on this Bears defense as well as they've moved it on everybody else. What are the keys that you're looking at for a Washington win today?
I think this is they just got to play their game. They got to continue to get better offensively. Um, Cliff Kingsbury has been doing an amazing job calling these games. And a part of me, being very transparent with you all, kind of wanted Marcus to start. Because I
Mm,
said, Marcus starts and they win. That's Cliff. That's
Mm,
Cliff.
hmm
We can go down that path another day, right? On why the reasons why I say that's Cliff.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, we can go down that path another day. But I think this is a day because now we're at the middle of the season, right?
Hmm.
So this is where the identity should really start to form because I really don't think offensively the Commanders still really have an identity just yet. Like they do because they do a little bit of everything. So if it's going to be around creativity and innovation, if you listen to some of the press conferences, Cliff Kingsbury will share some of the plays and where they get stuff from and who brought this idea. Sometimes it's the players, sometimes it's the quarterback coaches that bring some of those ideas to light. So I really would like to see the offense dictate and make the Bears defense chase them. They definitely can't get punched in the mouth. Everybody remembers what happened that Thursday night debacle with the Bears. Everybody remembers that. Okay,
Yeah.
that was just a travesty. So they can't do that. They gotta score fast, touchdowns, right? Stay away from field goals as much as possible. But this could definitely be a shootout for sure. I think defensively, you saw a bit of it, right? And now here's the narrative. Well, the Commanders' defense only plays well against really bad offenses,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So
Hmm.
this is a day where you can kind of say where they are even in the middle of the road, right? We know they've lost to Tampa Bay and the Ravens. We know those are playoff teams. Everybody's even predicting the Ravens to be a Super Bowl contender, be potentially Super Bowl, but that's their narrative every year, right? Barring an injury. But today is absolutely a day where they can say the defense that you must respect us, and they get a lot of energy from the fans. This has been a recurring message from Dan Quinn, from the players. Joe Witt mentioned it in his press conference last week. He said, "Man, the fans had these players ready to roll," and that's what they want. They want this to be a hostile environment. They don't want, all of many of the veteran players coming in and the coaches. They know because they've come here and they would tell you
Oh shoot! Did we lose
home game.
Candy or did I?
Oh, can y'all hear me?
Yeah, I
Did I
got you.
lose
Yeah.
Yep, yep.
y'all? Oh, I was gonna say this should really look like a home game,
Right.
not a,
True.
a home game for the Bears. I think I saw a question about a lot of Bears fans. Oh, it's enough. It's a lot. So
And that's one thing I noticed last week at last week's game. It was Commanders. When I was there, it was nothing but Commanders fans, right? I knew they was taking on Carolina Panthers, but it was Commanders fans that were there. And I can say, and you saying that this week, there are more Commanders fans that are coming out than opposing teams. There have been times we've been in the stadium where I've been covering it, or in the stands where I've seen more Giants fans walk in. I've seen more Eagles fans walk in. I've seen more Cowboys. I've seen it when the stadium has been a blue and silver, But again, you start to see Commanders fans come back, and that's what the excitement is all about. And there's energy in the stadium. You can feel it when you walk in. There's excitement around Northwest Stadium with this team.
And so I just think, we don't know what's going to happen, but they need to compete relentlessly to the end. And this is an opportunity for the team to start to, whoever they want to be. It's week 8. They need to be that today.
Totally agree. It's week 8, halfway in the season, and this team definitely needs to step up. Defense needs to step up as well. Hey, Candy, thanks for being on.
Thank you, Candy.
You got stuff to do. Thank you for being always insightful, as you always are, and not worried about taking the topics that we need to talk about, like African American quarterbacks and things of that nature. We appreciate you. Thank you very much. I enjoyed the game. We know
All right.
I'm going to ask you this one. I know you don't like to pick it, but I'm not going to ask you prediction of the score, but I'm going to ask you, who is your fantasy player of the day?
Fantasy player of the game?
If you want fantasy player of the game, who are you picking?
Brian Robinson Jr.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Got you. Appreciate it. Let everybody know where they can catch you at as well.
You all can follow me on X at SCBallSE. Make sure you're subscribed to Bowie_TV. And just follow me at SCBallSE for all my Commanders content and Bowie_TV.
Kenny, once again, appreciate you. Thank you. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Talk to y'all later.
Talk to you later. Bye-bye. That was Candy from Bowie TV Sport, but Bowie TV. George, she said something that was key there, man. It is nice to be able to say that the fans are back in Washington, right? I think that and that the players, right, are getting off the energy, feeding off the energy of the Commanders fan. And I know you've been a Commander, formerly RFK and FedEx Field.
Yep.
Excitement that's there when the fans, RFK used to rock when the stands were there. That whole building would jump and go up and down. And that's when Washington was at its heyday. It's good to have fans back in the stadium, whether or not opposing fans. And when you look up, you see nothing but burgundy and gold and not the color of the other team.
Oh, and you saw it last week. It's like, because, it used to be so bad, and this team used to be so bad, that you'd be like, what are all these Saints fans doing here, and Jaguars fans, and Panthers fans? Because everybody would come in here because nobody that liked this team wanted to see this team play. So to know that we now have a legitimate home field advantage, we hadn't been 3-0 at home. I think they're 3-0 at home coming into today. That hasn't happened for ages when you think about it. And it really is the whole culture shift thing is amazing. And again, it makes you laugh at the previous regime. We talk about it takes 3 or 5 years to build a culture or to change a culture. No, it's taken Dan Quinn and Adam Peters and Josh Harris 6 months to do it, basically, or 9 months, however long they've been here. And it all flows together beautifully. And I think that it's for the first time since the very early days of that stadium, Washington's going to get the 2 or 3 points of advantage from being a home team that everybody else that's got a home field advantage gets. And that's huge in a game like this. That could be the difference.
Definitely could be a difference. And what also could be a difference if those that just joining us here on Instagram, Twitter, also on Urban Sports Scene. If you had not heard, Jaden Daniels is playing today, right? We talked about it earlier with Candy Waller. We also talked about it last week on our podcast, George, that we thought that that J5 will play, right? We thought that the Commanders were holding them out just because to be cautionary measures, right? And that we wanted to get him, he would be able to play in this big game. It's a 425 game. They flexed it. Again, I mentioned earlier, the Washington Commanders are playing a big primetime game to showcase. That's when you know you have a star, right?
That's right.
That knows when you have a star. When the NFL say, you know what, this is the best game. We're gonna flex this game. You can't do it a Sunday night because Sunday night's a big game as well, right? Sunday night's a big game, big talent. But the best spot that you want to be in if you can't get Sunday night or Monday night is that 425. Other games are done. All eyes are on you, and we got a great contest today. And talking about having a great contest today, Jaden Daniels and the Washington Commanders taking on Caleb Williams and the Chicago Bears. George, what are some of your keys to victory for a Commanders victory today?
I think what you got to do with Caleb Williams is to get hits on the quarterback. I think Caleb Williams is a guy that needs to be in a rhythm. He needs to be throwing the ball well early, but he needs to have the time in the pocket. And if need be, he needs to be able to improvise a little bit, make plays off schedule. You got to hit this man. You got to blitz him. You got to come after him. You got to challenge him. Because let's face it, what Candy said is true. This team hasn't really stopped a good offense, with the exception of Arizona. This team has not stopped a good offense this year. So they got to prove to me, and I think honestly, even if the Mariota thing was part of it, they got to prove to the people who make the lines and to the rest of the country that they're a good enough defense to stop some of the really good offenses. Because if you're talking about being a contender in the NFC, you got to go up against Philadelphia's offense, which is cooking today. The Lions offense, which is they got 42 today. Minnesota, even though they've lost a couple of games, how good their offense is. Point is, you got so many really good offenses in this conference, and you got to show that you can contain them or at least restrain them a little bit. That they're not going to hang 30 on you like the Bengals did, like the Ravens did, like the Buccaneers did. So that for me is the number one key: is get to Caleb Williams and get him out of a rhythm. Because if you do that, Caleb Williams is going to put the ball in danger and give you a chance to get turnovers.
Yeah, definitely. I think you got to try to stop Caleb Williams, but also I'm gonna call him Commanders killer because last time they played out, DJ Moore 8, right? DJ Moore had
DJ Moore 8 big time.
DJ Moore 8, but then if you add Keelan Allen to the mix now, there are other guys that can eat on that Chicago Bears team, and our secondary has played better, right? Secondary has played better. This will be a test for that secondary to see if they got things in order, right? You have a Forbes back, you have other guys that's out there. You have St. Juice, my man Jeremy here today. You got St. Juice. We're gonna see if they have they gotten better? Have they learned from just a couple of weeks ago, right? Last week there wasn't too much of a worry when you were playing the Carolina Panthers. Now you're playing the Chicago Bear offense that tosses the ball. Caleb Williams seems like he's more settled into this offense. Early in the season, he was struggling getting used to the pro game, right?
Yep.
Getting used to the pro game, and now he is he's starting to settle into this Bear offense. I agree with you, Michael, a little bit. I don't think we need two spies, but you do need a spy, whether it's going to be Frankie Louvu or it's going to be Bobby Wagner. I do think you do need a spy on Caleb Williams because you have two running quarterbacks that will break out. And as Wally said, when he's here, one of the things that is that defense don't count for is the quarterback, right?
That's right.
Quarterback. You don't count for the quarterback. But to me, for a key to the Commanders' victories, again, ball control the clock. Keep Caleb Williams and the Chicago Bears offense on the sideline. And we've seen that with this Cliff Kingsbury offense. It hasn't been too many big plays with this offense, but it has been methodically walking down the field, whether it's 10, 11, 12, 13 play drives, and this team finishing off with 7. I don't want 3s today, right? They need to put 7 on the board. It needs to be effective and efficient as possible. We only saw Tressway once last week. I don't want to see Tressway this week unless he's holding for field goals, right? Unless Tressway is holding for field goals. Tressway. I don't agree with everybody says it's going to be a shootout. I think this Washington Commanders defense will be able to stifle Caleb Williams. I want to put faith in Whitney today. I do think that the defense has stepped a little bit better. Again, the Commanders defense is still playing without Jonathan Allen. So Deron Payne and the rest of the defensive line had a great week last week against the Carolina Panthers. I need this defense, and I think Candy alluded to it as well. Need to see this defense beat a quality offensive team. In order for we can say, we're contenders or we're in that mix. I know what the record is, but nobody wants to get to the playoffs. And I'm early as 8 games in. Nobody wants to get there and lose the first round.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
You get there and you move it. As you mentioned, cooking. The Detroit Lions had 35 in the first half. Right? Detroit had 35 in the first half. The Eagles are cooking. So we got the Eagles coming down the road here in a couple of weeks, right? You'll see what the Cowboys do later on tonight. So, again, you want to get defense to be moving in the right direction. When you start playing teams next week, like the New York Football Giants, you got to keep it moving. But keys to victory for me is control the clock and run the football.
No, and I want to go back on what you said about the red zone because when I was looking at Chicago, because Wole and I were going back and forth both in the text and a lot of places about whether the Chicago defense is really good. Look at that game against Houston. Houston dominated that first half, went up and down the field, had almost 200 yards of offense in the first half. But why was it close? Because they kept kicking field goals. So this Bears defense, I'm not scared of it in terms of Washington moving the ball. I think Washington moving the ball against anybody, don't care who it is. But they have stopped people in the red zone. They have forced people to kick field goals. And I think you're so right about that. You've got to finish these drives. And one thing we got to say, Washington, since the Giants game, has been really good at doing that. They have been getting the touchdowns. They have been finishing drives. They haven't been settling. We've seen plenty of Seibert, but we didn't see him 7 times in one game like against the Giants. So I just want to make that point. They can move the football on this team. I have no doubts they will. But finish these drives and get it in the end zone. Don't be settling for Seibert field goals, even though we love Austin Seibert.
All right, here we go. Let's get some of these questions out of the way, George, before we go into our predictions. The secondary for the Commanders should be the focus. Go Commanders. Secondary today should be the focus, right? You should focus on the secondary. I think the front four, or let's call it the box, the 7 in the box will be great today. I think the front will be all right. But again, can the front get enough pressure to get, I think you said it, George, to knock Caleb Williams off his rhythm, to get him out, rotate, moving out of the box, not being settled, being able to make plays, being able to move.
I mean, this is a tough assignment. Odunze, Moore, Keenan Allen. Even if you think Keenan Allen's on the backside of his career, he's still in my eyes, he's still a great receiver. Mm-hmm. I have Odunze in a bunch of fantasy leagues. I am a huge Rome Odunze fan. And DJ Moore, the less said, the better. We know what he's done against us. We don't need to go over that again.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, my man Paul says it too, right? Pressure him. That's right, Paul. Yes. We have to add pressure. Pressure is the key, right? Don't just rush 3. Don't just rush 4. I mean, give me some 5-man, maybe a 6-man pressure, something like that. I know that puts a lot on the back end, but make sure some of these guys that are defensive ends, these pass rush specialists that you brought in, right? These pass rush guys that we brought in, make sure they get the sacks. You got your Abade Sakias, your Pharaohs, and those guys. Make sure your Dante Fowler Juniors, right, who has a big game. Those guys have to be able to get the pressure on Caleb Williams. And again, Mark, you definitely right, Mark. You got to rattle his cage. Got to rattle his cage quick. You got to rattle his cage often, right? You got to make sure that he's unsettled, he's unsure, and get there. Wooly said, "Hey, Wooly's shining in, baby." That's right. Got to blitz Caleb. You got to blitz Caleb. Again, 100%. Everybody's saying the same thing as far as this defensive wise, that we have to be able to add, this D-line has to be able to add pressure without a Jonathan Allen. You can see Johnny Newton today. Let's see if Newton can add that pressure to him. Pressure of A gap, B gap, flow them out to your outside defenders, your pass rushers, and see if they can go ahead and get sacks as well. Definitely, that is a key to a victory for the Washington Commanders. And I think everybody's on the same page when it talks about that we have to be able to blitz Caleb Williams. Don't let him sit back there and pick you apart with the weapons that you said he had already, with the DJ Moores and with the Keenan Allens. You can't let him sit there and pick you apart.
And be in no doubt, if they decide to drop 7 in coverage or 8 in coverage consistently, he will do that. Plus, DeAndre Swift out of the backfield. DeAndre Swift was a problem for Washington last year when we played Philadelphia. Don't let that happen again either. And Paul's right on it with it.
Yep, Paul's right on it. You got to make them one-dimensional. And when you make a team one-dimensional, and then one thing also, we said it just last week and we talked about this week, Washington gets the lead and they can pad that lead. It helps the defense because now you can pin your ears back and go after them, right? Because you have help. They're down. They need that extra oomph. They need to go down the field. He do some things that Caleb's not comfortable. Can't get Swift running. Swift has to be, because then Swift has been a Washington killer when he was in Philadelphia, right? When he was in Philly, Swift has hurt the Washington Commanders. But again, defense has to step up today. This is a day that Joe Witt can earn his, I want to say earn his keep, but this is the day you can say, you know what, Joe Witt has turned the corner. Last week, the corner against the Carolina Panthers, but that's the Carolina Panthers, everybody's saying, right? Let's have a good team and turn the corner defensively. So there's no question that this team has played a total 3 phases of football. We know that offense is good. We know that special teams is good. Now we need a defense to catch up to where the offense and special team is at, and that's on Joe Witt. So we're not having a conversation tomorrow Joe Witt and Jack Del Rio are one and the same. And that's a lot of people are saying that the offense is what's keeping the Washington Commanders alive, and it's not the defense.
And I totally agree with that.
You know, you mentioned it. They gave up 35, Tampa, 35. They've been giving up 30 points all game. They beat the Bengals, but they gave up 30-some points, right?
Mm-hmm.
How long can you keep doing it? Ray giving points up, 30-some points up to the Ravens. How long can the defense keep giving up 30 points a game and expect to win? You can't. I think the Bengals are a busted flush here. Yeah.
The funny thing is, I didn't like them going for it on 4th and 1, and then throwing a pass short of the first down was crazy. They only gave up a field goal off that, so they still had a chance. But yeah, they just threw a pick. But I'll tell you something. All the people that said, "Oh, the Browns are terrible," and it was only the Browns. Browns are fighting the Ravens today, tooth and nail, folks.
They're a different team with Jameis Winston. They got their weapons back, right?
Yeah.
So they got their weapons back. So, George, with us, we talking about the keys to victory, man. Give me some predictions. What is your prediction for today's game?
I went 31-24 Washington. I mean, I meant to look at this before the game, but I'm fairly confident that with the exception of maybe the Giants game and maybe last week, because it was a big number last week, Washington games have been going over the total. So there's been points, and there's been lots of points in these games. And I'm not going to buy the notion that I really don't think Caleb's going to struggle here, because I think Caleb is great and is becoming a great quarterback. And again, like JD5, his progression from a start of the year where he struggled to now has been incredible. So you're not going to get me buying that Washington's going to be able to keep him down the whole game. But I do think that the Washington offense is going to cook here. I think Daniels, having not gotten the chance to really make up for if he felt like he needed to make up for the Ravens game because he was knocked out after one possession, I think Jaden's going to be really focused. I think he's going to play really well. Again, I don't think that Bears defense is much really because, again, outside of the Texans, who have they played that is a really good offense? And they did stop the Texans in the second half, but the Texans moved the football on them. So I like Washington 31-24. I think another great game for Daniels is in the offing. And we're going to keep this rolling, and we have to because it looks like Philadelphia is going to be a problem in this division now.
I mean, it is what it is. You got to win games, right? You got to win games. Guys, I forgot to mention, those of you in the chat, drop us your score, right? What your predictions? Drop your predictions today, George. I think it's going to be 35-28 Washington. I think 35-28. I like Jaden. I like this offense. I think they're clicking. I like Brian Robinson Jr., who's getting healthier, and we saw him run last week a lot. Austin Eckler as well. And everybody in the offensive line has been playing well. I think the offensive line can, and I'll get to that question in a minute before we get to the fantasy, but I think the offensive line can do real well today.
And remember, we didn't have Eckler for a game. It didn't stop us from scoring. We didn't have JD5 for a game. It didn't stop us from scoring. So, yes, it hurts to miss a Brandon Coleman as a for instance, because I like what Candy said about that would have been an interesting battle, him against Sweat. But Cornelius Lucas knows Sweat just as well as Sweat knows him. So I imagine they'll have a few things ready for Sweat to try to deal with his pass rush, his prodigious pass rush ability. So I'm with you on that. Both these defenses are going to have to prove it to me before I'm buying that they're going to stop either offense in this game.
Yeah, and we go back to last year, week 5, the score was 40-20, right? It was 40-20. It was a shootout then, even though the Washington's 20 came on the back end, but it was still a high-scoring game, and they went over the over for last year. Let's go. So we got Michael. Michael says 35-21. Washington Commanders, if the defense contain them on third down. Good point, Michael. We got to definitely get them on third down. Stop them on third down. We also have DeAnleo Kellis says, and I would say that correct. 28-21 Commanders. Brian Robinson Jr. 2 rushing touchdowns. And I like to see the 100-yard rush.
I like that.
Definitely want to see the 2 rushing touchdowns because he's on my fantasy league. So we want to definitely have that going as well. Who else we got out here to get? Mark gave us a 31-24.
You and I are on the same wavelength, Mark.
All right. And we'll get there. One thing we didn't touch on that Candy touched on that we'll add to this game is the Montez Sweat factor, right?
Mhm.
We asked Katie the question, George, I'm asking you the question, what do you think of Montez Sweat coming back to Washington, D.C.? And come back to D.C., and will it be a factor in this game?
I thought it was interesting that he said, I'm glad to be playing where I wanted. It sounds like Montez Sweat's a little bit twisted and a little bit turned up about the way it ended here in Washington, which again kind of surprises me because, when he got to Chicago, he was talking very much about how much he liked their coaching staff and how he felt like they kept the team together, and seemed to be pretty harsh on the coaching staff that was in Washington, rightfully so. And then all of a sudden now, a year later, it's like, well, they didn't really want me, which I think is that's kind of a silly thing for him to say. I just thought that was interesting. I mean, he clearly is going to be fired up, and he's going to look at Cornelius Lucas and think he can get the better of him because he's faced him in practice all the time. I do think it's a factor. I think you're going to see double teams on him. I think you need to see double teams on him at times, especially in the run game. And I think they're going to, like I said, I think they're going to have a few special things kind of waiting for him to try to mitigate his ability to get pressure on the quarterback. But as we've said and we've talked about with him, it's always the classic. He's the guy who almost gets there, and he's apparently had that problem this year in Chicago, is that he's the nearly man. He nearly gets the sack. He nearly gets the quarterback down. So that's going to be a question of can Jaden Daniels have that clock in his head that he's shown and get himself out of that trouble when it comes towards him. And could we maybe see a few plays out of Kingsbury where they move the pocket away from Sweat to kind of mitigate it that way as well?
But one thing you said that I like, I think Sweat did want to be in Washington, right? I think Sweat was thinking what everybody else was thinking, that Chase Young would be the guy to get moved and he would stay.
Okay.
I think with the Commanders front office and with Jack Del Rio, with Ron Rivera, they was trying to, get things changed, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we all question, why would you get rid of your pass rushers, right? What were you getting? They was trying to. It was like a fire sale for them. They could have got rid of Chase and nobody wouldn't have it. I think Montez wanted to stay in Washington. A lot of people wanted Montez to stay in Washington. The fans liked Montez. The fans enjoyed Montez. They saw Montez work. They saw the energy that Montez brought to the team. So for him to come back and say now that this is where he wanted to play, I wholeheartedly believe he wanted to be a Washington Commander. And again, he's seen the excitement here. He's seen the energy here now. And he's like, dang, if I could have just held on a little bit after Ron them got fired, they could have made a decision at the end of the season. I think Montez Sweat still would have been a Commander.
I think that's a fair point. I mean, I'll be honest. I did not take it that way, but I think that's a great point that you're making. I didn't see it that way from the Montez Sweat thing, and maybe in my case it was always we were never going to pay him that money. We were never going to give him the bag that he got from Chicago. So it was sort of like you kind of had to do what they did, and let's be honest, they got an offer they couldn't refuse, right?
Yeah,
like you couldn't refuse that offer from Chicago that they gave him.
You couldn't refuse it. They got the draft picks, and we see how it works out. Today, if the Washington Commanders win today, right, 6-2 will be the 6-2 for the first time since 2008, right? 6-2 for the first time since 2008. Washington looking to go. Here it is, George, a big number, right? Here it is, big number. If the Washington Commanders go 4-0 today, they win at home today. Here's another. Not since 1978 have the Commanders started 4-0 at home.
Is that right? Wait a minute. We were 4. I thought we were 4-0 at home in 91.
To open the season 4-0. It will be the first time they opened the season 4-0 since 1978.
I mean, I guess that Cowboys game that they lost at home to them in 91 must have been the fourth home game then, which kind of blows my. We've got to look at that because I can't believe they weren't 4-0 at home in 91.
Straight from the Commanders press release, the press package.
Wow. I mean, and the funny thing is, that might have been Jack Pardee might have been the coach. That might not have even been George Allen at that point. Or it was either that or it was Allen's last year. That's kind of mind-blowing, honestly. I'm shocked. I am stunned by that.
I agree with you, but I disagree with you. Montez wasn't going to get paid here under the old regime.
I agree with you, Ole, on that.
Yeah, on the old regime, I don't think he was going to get paid here. But if the new regime had taken care of what they needed to take care of, he might have got paid on the new regime, in my opinion.
And that's a fair point. And I didn't even think about the fact that everybody knew Chase was going to get moved and that he didn't think he was going to get moved because he thought it was only going to be Chase. That's again, I didn't even think about that perspective, and that sort of puts a new spin on it.
Yep. Here we go. George, fantasy player of the game.
Oh gosh, well, you know what? I'm not going to say Brian Robinson because Candy said that, and I think Candy's spot on. So I'm going to go. You know what? I'm going to go with Zach Ertz because it just feels like that in the red zone. Zach Ertz has been huge, and I think you look at that Chicago Bear defense and how good they've been in the red zone defense. Maybe Zach Ertz is the key to unlocking that. Maybe it's tight end, a little in those little in that 5 to 9 yard range away from the end zone, and it's the tight end that we go to get to punch it in there. So I'm going to say Zach Ertz today.
Okay, you stole one from me, so I'm going to have to change it.
I feel good because Candy was thinking what I was thinking about Brian Robinson Jr. for sure.
I almost pick Brian Robinson Jr. every week, right?
Yeah.
I like to run the football, but I'm going to say there's two people. I said defense last week. I'm going to go with J5 today. I think Jaden Daniels threw 3 touchdowns today, right? I think he throws 3 touchdowns today, and hopefully. Those are two, either Austin Eckler or Terry McLaurin. But I think J5 today, he's going to be something to prove. I think we're going to watch this game like, man, both of these guys are great quarterbacks.
And I just love the conversation you and Candy were having about not just the importance of them now, but the future of the league. I mean, we've already seen Jaden Daniels. He was on the banner for the NFL's Twitter account, which is kind of a big deal to start with. Him and Caleb are going to be on everyone's television for maybe the next 10 to 15 years, and not just playing football, doing commercials, doing interviews, and hyping things up for the league. I mean, this is such a great moment. These two facing off in their rookie year, and they're both doing good, and both of these teams are good. That's also something. Bears and Washington playing each other and both being good at the same time hadn't happened for a while. So that kind of adds to it as well. So this is just what a moment this is in general, all of this.
It is definitely – it's hype around it. You got kids coming home, players coming home, DC. It is a great moment. Great moment for Washington Commanders. Somebody said Mark talks about it was 91. What part are you talking about was 91, Mark?
The 4-0 at home. I can't believe they weren't 4-0 at home in 91 because
Washington, look at the season opener. I'm talking about the first 4 home games. The first 4 home games has been the first time to open the season consecutively. All right. It's been 1978.
That I know. I swear they got that wrong because
but I thought 91 at first, but it's consecutively is looking to open the season 4-0 at home for the first time since 78.
That's such a weird stat, but leave
that
aside. Leave that
because we think about different games and like, hold up, this, but it's weird stat. But again, it's the same team that haven't shut a team out since 1991.
Yeah, no, but I mean, it does show you how rare it's been since the Super Bowl year to have a real home field advantage, and now they're starting to have one. And it's just huge for this team in general. And it's nice because it's like most of these other teams in the league have had it, at least at some point, even if it was briefly. And now finally in Washington, we've got one. I think that changes a lot of things. These darn Eagles are going to win. Golly, Moses.
And be on the lookout today too. Also be on the lookout today for Brian Robinson Jr. If he gets 72 yards, he'll go over 2,000 for his career. So that's something to watch today. And hey, we're excited about the game. So George, we got fantasy picks, we got our predictions. Here is the kicker. Not only fantasy picks, not only predictions for the game. Leaving out of here at what do you expect from this team as a whole? The energy, energy and everything. What do you expect for this team as a whole?
I mean, my expectation is that this is going to be an exciting game, probably from the first minute. It's going to be a roller coaster in the sense that, there'll probably be a series of possessions where it looks like Washington's really getting on top, and then Chicago's going to kind of punch back a little bit. So I'm expecting Washington to roll with the punches a little bit, but have the big finish when they need it. That's what I'm expecting. I really think that Jaden Daniels has been primed for this game all week. I sort of wonder if it's been a little bit of fattening, to use an old John Thompson quote, fattening frogs for snakes. Swallows talk about, well, he might not play this week and we're really not sure. I think they knew all along he was going to play. And I think he knew all along he was going to play. And I think he considering that he didn't get to play at all last week, and they got and the last time he got to play a full game, they lost to those doggone Ravens. I think Jaden Daniels is really going to put in a great performance this week. And that's kind of what I'm looking forward to seeing. And again, I think we're not going to blow the Bears out. I just don't believe that, because I think Caleb is going to turn up and play really, really well. But I just think Washington's going to have a little too much for them. And again, 6-2, big, because Philadelphia is now crushing the Bengals at this point. Philadelphia is not going to let us have this division just without a fight. So that's what we got to be ready for. Have to win this game, set the table for these division games coming up.
Definitely do that. I'm looking for this team to fight. I'm looking for grit. I want to see the defense fight. I want to see them be able to answer the bell. All right. But the Bears are going to get theirs. They're going to try to. And can we stand toe to toe and still be with one of the teams in the NFC? Right. The Bears are fighting for their life, right? Because they're in a division where they probably have to win a division to make playoffs, or there'd be 3 teams from that division, because you have the Minnesota Vikings, who's lost 1. You see what Detroit is at today, and you see the Bears, and Green Bay's not losing anytime soon, so hasn't lost yet. So the Bears are in a fight, and Washington's in a fight. You mentioned Philadelphia, right? Philadelphia's winning now. Dallas may win, so they're going to be in a fight, and we'll see how this progresses. I want to see the team answer the call and fight, and that's one of the biggest things there. I do see the 1991 season. We'll check things out, man. We take for tat. We'll go there. The 91 season, they did start 11-0. All right.
They had to been. I figured that Cowboys game was like the 5th or 6th home game that year. Couldn't have been only the 4th. Not when they started 11-0. So I don't know what the Washington PR was doing. I'm not sure.
Not at all. Hey, but let's talk about this and let's get out of here, George. Hey, for those who are watching this, man, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Hit that bell notification button. If you're on Instagram, you're on Twitter, wherever you at, make sure you subscribe to our podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeart, our radio, and other podcast platforms. That's at All Burgundy and Gold. Everything on Twitter, we're ABG_everything. TikTok, ABG_everything. But also join us immediately following the game, right? Immediately following the game, we're going to talk the Commanders football, whether it's a win, whether it's a loss. We're going to talk Washington Commanders football. Please join us after the game. We want to talk to you. We want to hear from you. We want your input, right? The good, the bad, and the ugly. We'll be joined this afternoon with Miss K&N herself, Kelsey Nicole Nelson from K&N. So she'll join us on the post game this afternoon. We'll have that for you immediately following the 000, or they would say immediately after the Fat Lady sings.
Yes.
After Fat Lady sings, come back here to YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, wherever you watch us at. And hey, listen to us. All right, we'll give you all the insights. Once again, thanks for listening to us. Hope you guys enjoy this afternoon's game. 425. Go get that popcorn. Go get them buffalo wings. Go get and get your Mamba sauce. Get everything ready. Your crab cakes, whatever you need, as we watch the Commanders take on the Chicago Bears, and hopefully the Washington Commanders and Jaden Daniels can walk away with a win. Once again, appreciate you guys. We love you. Talk to you later, and we are out. Deuce.
I can't believe I just